put a lot of color on it.
Okay, so Locations Africa, you're encouraging co-productions. You've got Kenya, you've mentioned Namibia, and I suppose you are helping governments and provincial tourism boards to attract investment and productions into their provinces, etc.
Definitely. I mean, we work with almost every single commission across Africa. We set up the Africa Film Commissions Network as well. We work with the AU. In instances, we work with the Secretariat to set up a commission for cinema. And we're working with that particular commission and trying to do some work.
What's the name of that commission?
It's called the African Audiovisual Commission.
Yeah.
It's a African Audiovisual Cinema Commission, and that organization is trying to kind of bring together how Africa presents itself to the rest of the world. So our intentions are exactly the same. We're more on the ground. We work with film commissions and film offices and film desks around, like I said, and strategically as well, we also help set up film commissions. So we've set up, we're in the process of helping some countries set up. We also do work with tourism because film and tourism are their cousins. They're those kind of cousins you grow up at home with good folk, and your brothers and sisters, we're not cousins. So that's the relationship that tourism has with film. And so we work with SA Tourism, I've worked with Madagascar, I've worked with Seychelles, I've worked with Mauritius, I've worked with, across South Africa, different agencies. So it's not just limited to what we do here in South Africa, but I genuinely live this African dream that I have.
Wow. A shout out to the Rustenburg Film Festival. Mr. B, just reading the theme of the cohesion and having a value chain that's connected, and the word synergies. I love how Azania is doing that in Locations Africa. Me and them, I'm going to do a deep dive with you. I know we drove many hours to be here, but I love all the things you're mentioning. Ma'am Judy, I want to come to you, but let me go to them, Lindy, online. To first give the full name, we did the acronym SWIFT, but tell us the full name of the organization and what you guys stand for, and its vision.
Thank you, Sisanda. Thank you, Sisanda. SWIFT stands for Sisters Working in Film and Television. And I'm representing them today because I provide the services of Acting Executive Officer. It's a female-based, membership-based organization that was set up in 2017 by a group of women with a vision to come together and advocate for women in the organization that is agitating, advocating for women issues. As you will know, that women make up the slightly bigger number in the creative sector. So we run 3 programs. One is advocacy, and within advocacy we have a program called Safety Contact Officer that handles sexual harassment in the industry. And then we have Sisterhood Cinema, where we promote women-made films. We have a members meetup every month. We do screenings of films made by women, and we have passions. And then the third program is on skills and mentorship. We start strategic partnerships with stakeholders outside the industry and within and beyond South Africa, and organize skills and mentorship programs. But most of all, SWIFT is also about networking. Women coming together and networking. These are women from different capacity, different kinds of capacities in industry. You've got producers, writers, directors who come together, and they do belong to other organizations within the we have an MOU with the NFBF where we collaborate and activations. For instance, we collaborated in August within Women's Month. We will be collaborating during 60 days of action in Namibia. We have partnership in Zimbabwe and Djibouti, Botswana. So in a nutshell, the importance of organizations is really to come together, unite and agitate and advocate for a cause within the capacities of the value chain. I will stand there at the moment.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's go to Ududu.
Sanwanani, so I'm here representing the Writers Guild of SA. We are basically the professional association that is mandated to empower, develop, and protect performance writers. Performance writers are script writers, people that create the words that are performed on TV, on radio, on stage, lyrics, etc. So we're not just an organization for people that write for television or for the screen, but we're also for a broader network of writers that are focused on work that will be performed. So represent other writers that have created some of the works that you have loved, some of the works that he's performed, some of the works that you are going to be watching as part of this festival, as part of other festivals. And I think just like in a very, very broad way, very, very short way, this is who we are. We're a member-based organization, which means we rely on the members to give us a mandate in terms of what to represent for you out there. We have a membership fee for students, for professional, for writers, for candidates, for people that are just starting out, as well as for corporate members. You can talk about that if you want to find out a bit more about it. But the website here is Writers Guild. Let me make sure I'm saying it right. Don't want to send you somewhere else. WritersGuildSA.org. We're also Writers Guild SA on Twitter, as well as Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you, Gigi. Wonderful. Do you want to be projecting that, or are you just your notes? Tell us a little bit of just your background and kind of highlights of the last 5 years.
So I started writing. I've always been a person who wrote and played and created stories. I'm sure you guys all know Toto, the stones on the floor. This is where, on the ground, this is where we all start, Some of us start with our grandmothers around the fireplace. Some of us, grow old and we discover this thing exists and jump into it. So I've been working in this industry for the past 17 or so years. And in the last 5 years, have been immersed in telenovelas, in writing films.
Which ones? What's the names?
Okay. Let's start backwards. Most recent is Happiness Is, which is on Netflix, which I co-wrote with Tuso CDC.
Wait, Happiness, the one that was a series which is now a movie. Is that the latest release?
Yes, Keeper Master Quiz.
That's what festivals are for.
Yes, the one that was going to be a series but is now a movie. So it became...
Okay.
Yes. What else is out there? I'm blanking out, but yeah.
Telenovelas? No,
Telenovelas, the last one I was on, I think, was in Deu. I've worked on Kabeja as a script editor. I worked on The Queen as a script editor, as a head writer, as a storyliner, as a script writer. So right through from the beginning till the end of it, in and out, through the years. Sometimes you leave and go work on other things.
Okay.
Come back.
So were you hired by Katu or William, or were you hired by Koi?
I've worked for all three. So all three. So at different levels, we've Patrick William, who are Cheta Films. So they're responsible for what's now it's Youngins and Kabeja and that's out. We started at almost similar times, so we worked together from Mubango. Started together all the way from there to Soul City, to different places, to them hiring me, to me working with them as the head writer, and then vice versa. So yeah.
Wow. So Kabeja in Beu, head writer, script editor, screenwriter, storyliner, the Queen. Who likes the Queen? Who's seen the Queen? Yeah, okay. And Happiness, who's seen that on Netflix? The new one. Yeah, she is in your genre as I used to, right? Okay, good. So I think, let me tell you guys a little bit about the Independent Producers Organization, at least so we sort of cover, in a sense, the Independent Producers Organization is, as the name says, and so as a non-profit organization, it represents and fights for, advocates for the rights of independent producers. Are there independent producers in the house? Anyone? Who's an independent producer? Who's a writer in the house? Okay, Writers Guild, here we go. Who's an actor in the house? Yay, okay. Who's a locations manager in the house? Location scout. Okay, let me go to Ma'am Lindy one more time. You mentioned the safety contact officer. What would be the thing you advise for producers who are going into production regarding the safety contact officer? And in brief, what's the one thing you would sort of charge a producer to be mindful of or to execute in their production from the Swiss perspective?
Yes. That's an important question. Safety Contact Officer is a program that is made to handle and assist with sexual harassment in productions. The Safety Contact Officer, what we do, we've created a code of conduct that we really implore the producers to use when they sign contracts with cast and crew, and attach that code of conduct that outlines. But firstly, it's important that the safety contact officer provides a workshop just before shooting, so that they take through everybody on set, including cast, crew, production office and executives, and take them through on what is sexual harassment, how do you identify it, where do you report, what do you do, and when there's an incident on set, you are able to call a safety contact officer in confidence and talk to them about the incident. And they will either arbitrate, if the victim wants to report the incident, then the safety contact officer will assist. So that's the long and short of what a safety contact officer does. It actually mitigates the risks for the producer.
Yes, okay. Thank you, ma'am, on that. And in brief, the code of conduct that you then share.
I cannot handle that stage. Sorry?
Sorry, the network delayed us a bit there. In brief, does the code of conduct only...
They go through the trauma that stays with them. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I'll give it a few seconds so that when we're delayed, I don't end up interrupting you. After you finish your thought there, just take us through that code of conduct, especially if it covers more than just sexual harassment, if it does.
So the code of conduct is an agreement that outlines that is involved in the production, how they should behave, what they should do if there's an incident, everything. That if you don't behave this way, this will happen. This is how you can identify sexual harassment. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. And it's an agreement that we implore producers to give to the casting crew for them to attach on their agreements, so that everybody really creates a safety environment for everyone in the production. That's basically the thrust of the code of good practice.
Last two questions before we move on. Do you send a safety contact officer to the production to give the brief, or should the production have somebody who's certified as a safety contact officer? And can you, as Swift, come and do that initial workshop with cast and crew before production starts?
Yeah, we do have. The service we provide, we do have safety contact officer. We will send a safety contact officer for the first workshop, before production begins, to give a workshop for everybody. And then, if you want to have a safety contact officer on set, you can then also book a safety contact officer on set to be there either twice a week or once a week, depending on when you need an SEO. So it's three-pronged. We have a workshop that the safety contact officer will pay through everybody, and then if you want to book an SEO, you can have an SEO, and then thirdly, it's the code of good practice that we provide as a mechanism for everyone to acclimatize themselves with a safety contact officer. And just to add, Sisanda, that a safety contact officer is also different from an intimacy coordinator. Intimacy coordinators are meant to choreograph the themes, the distant scenes, the themes. But the safety contact officer takes care of the whole production and ensures the safety of the production.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Very good. All right. Why do people come to the Writers Guild, and what are sort of the big things that the industry yearns for and that Writers Guild provides? And what are the main questions new entrants are often asking or battling with?
So let me start by first explaining that as a writer in this industry, in fact, the entire industry pretty much, we are not considered workers. We're not covered by the labor laws. Therefore, you don't have benefits, you don't have the protections that come with labor laws. 8 hours a day, minimum wage, CCMA things are happening that are incorrect. This is what a standard contract looks like. This is how your copyright is protected. So those are the things that we're concerned about as writers, because largely writers, and not all the time, but largely writers are the originators of the concepts that you see on television. So when I'm a hired gun, when I'm a commissioned writer, when I am on to make a producer's vision, come alive on the page so that it can be passed on to the actors and the crew and the directors and everybody else. I come on as a freelancer, so things like schedules and things like how much I'm going to pay are not easily dictated by me. Things about who owns what I come up. You're basically saying everything that I'm going to be coming in once I've signed this contract, every single thing I've created for the Queen, every single thing I've created for Uzalo, everything I've created for housekeepers belongs to, not the producer, to the channel. And what does that mean? It means every time those shows play, everybody can see my name. But Duduzile Zamantungwa Mabaso does not enjoy another cent from it. She got paid R5, she finished, she wrote it, and it's been played 20-11 times. Right. In other countries, writers get residuals from those works. Obviously, there's different contracts. So there's a contract where you won't get writing residuals because you're working on somebody else's story and you're playing a different role. But there's places where you have created every single thing. You're basically the creator, but you're not going to get residuals from work that keeps on playing. You've seen how many times won't be sharing on TV. That man who wrote that series, that the actress is not getting paid. So this is where the Writers Guild steps in. So we've got a two-pronged problem. We've got a problem with the way the system is, the industry largely runs in terms of getting stuff from our creative spaces onto the screens or onto stages. And then the second problem is the law problem, that you can't just become you can't just be protected by the law. So what the Writers Guild does is, it's first of all, we are building and generating a membership body that's going to be large enough to have a force. Do you remember how Ikosatu, I'm taking you back now 20-30 years ago. Do you remember how when Ikosatu marches, it can put things at a standstill, right? First of all, what they have is numbers. They have membership. Everybody whose business it is to make sure we are protected joins the organization, becomes an active member of the organization. So if we need to shut things down, we can shut things down. You've all heard about how in the US they can do that. But this is years of building and organizing. Secondly, what COSATU has, which we don't have as creators, is the ability to unionize. So they can sit around the table with the decision makers in a place, on a platform that is called a bargaining council, and say, no man, if this one writes 10 words, they should be getting X amount. If this one only, just does this, they should get this amount. Sasanda came up with this idea. If he's the creator, he's the one who must get the royalties from this. Not Duduzile, who only came 5 minutes later and was like, no man, comma, right? Those kinds of things. But to have a bargaining council is what we need as an industry, is to create what is called a sectoral determination. So this is not necessarily something you need to worry about, but your energy needs you to participate in an organization for that kind of thing to happen. So writers need their own sectoral determination. It's almost like a law kind of thing that you then send to Department of Labor, has to ratify it. That may be the wrong word, but they need to take it on board. The Department of Arts and Culture needs to know about it, which says this is how the writing fraternity works. And these are the kinds of issues in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of contracts, in terms of rights, and this is how we are protected when things are going wrong. The reason we get, so the writers have to do that, the actors have to do that. We have similar problems, but we have different problems, right? So writers and actors are both creatives. So for example, tax is a similar problem, but time of work, the schedule just may not be a similar problem. So the actors must then put their own different thing in their own thing, as must the other different departments. And when we can get that happening, this is when we can get the protection. So our work as the Guild is working towards creating that document that will say the Guild may not be a union in terms of our laws, in terms of the labor laws that exist, but it is protected in terms of the sectorial determination, which then means when SABC, when Mnet, when Netflix, when everybody that else comes into the country and says, we are creating a telenovela for 260 episodes, but one says we only want to hire 2 people and we'll give them 10 rand, and another one says we only want to hire 5 people and we'll give them X amount. The Guild says, no, you can't do that in this country. This is what we all agree is a standards that we work with, meaning you can't pay me for the same job less than you pay somebody else, and you can't make somebody else do the same for 5 minutes, which we know to get to the right standard requires 10 hours, for example. So these are the things that we are working towards as a Guild. Other things are we help you with looking at your contract. We run workshops, we always have online workshops. So if you follow our social medias, you'll hear about the different workshops that we have. We've started again to have face-to-face workshops. Our most recent ones were about producing the writer-producer relationship. We had one with showrunning, which Patu ran. We had we've had a series of online workshops discussing AI, where how does the writer fit in with the AI. So even at Guild, the writers have to have a unified voice. You know, AI is coming in. If I'm using AI and no, that one isn't using AI, what does it mean for us as professionals in the workspace? So we have to have a position as writers that says, in South Africa, we don't care, AI can do whatever it wants. No, in South Africa, this is what we say, AI cannot replace writers in X, Y, Z, because what we prefer, personally, when I prefer AI to check my grammar. I don't want it to come up with my ideas or to take my ideas and import them into some cloud I don't know about. So there's those kinds of things that we have to think about. Then there's nice little things that, like Final Draft is expensive. Everybody uses Final Draft. That's the standard software to write your script on. So as a member, you get a discount. You don't have to those nice things like that. And we have what is called the Muse Awards. We recently announced Muse Awards. We even award, we've got new writers, we've got unproduced works, you can submit produced works. And it's how we kind of slowly working to grow our industry.
Oh, then thank you. Okay, so how does, let's say, as Tutu has said, what are the steps that government can legislate such a framework? And then a new Netflix comes, Apple, and now suddenly there's laws governing that. How does it actually work when something becomes law?
All right. So there are so many. This is a big question. Essentially, what you're talking about is what we call legislative cohesion, right? And she speaks about Department of Labour, you speak about Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, but then you've also got Department of Communications, right? Who run and moderate and monitor the broadcasters, of which Netflix is not part of that situation, by the by. So then you've got.
Let's solve that really quickly, because in other countries they don't go in and do as they wish.
They're a broadcaster.
They're a streamer, so
Doesn't matter. There's no laws around streaming.
I mean, come on, guys. Somebody should have updated that definition by now. Because, you know what I mean? If you're streaming, whether it's through internet, but you're sending out some kind of signal, and then somebody's watching something you're broadcasting. You know, so, I mean, countries like China, they don't get taken for a ride, right? So, like, the countries, they legislate what's out there. And even...
Sorry, John. You need political will for that, for those kinds of things to be done right. So where Azania was starting about political cohesion is really where the problem is. Because you have somebody saying, online Netflixes are right. We need to do 1, 2, 3 before 1, 2, 3 goes wrong. And then you have the other side that's like,
Yeah.
Azan, I'm coming back to you. Remember, Lindy, you were once at the department. In the ideal world, how should the departments be working and you know, even with the NFEFs, etc., where policy is driven that protects and grows the industry? We're coming back to Azan. I was thinking, are you still there?
Yeah, I think, I think what Azan was trying to get to, Sisanda, is that there has to be an interrelated and interconnection between possibly 5 departments that impact on the creative sector, and particularly the film industry, which is the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, Department of Communication and Digital, Department of Labor, and essentially Treasury. As much as the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture is responsible for the creative sector, but 3/4 of the regulatory and legislation framework that has impact on the industry lies with the other departments. It's really a question of having to work together. And the NFEF changed the definition of, it has changed. I mean, given the fact that the value chain itself has.
All right, so I want to keep talking even if you jump in.
Okay.
So essentially, where in Netflix is influence, right?
So
Sorry,
the definition of
Lindy?
it actually.
Sorry, sister, your line is really bad.
You're breaking up.
Your line is very bad.
Okay, yeah, continue.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm also.
Guys, maybe just mute her right now, and then if one of you guys can talk to her via the comment section. Yeah, front of house. Can you talk to her via the comment section? Thumbs up. Can you talk to her via the comment section? Thank you. Okay, so where we can influence and where it does, and where, I mean, Netflix is not going to come in, nor is Amazon, nor is anyone going to come in. It's not what they're here for. Please understand what we're saying. But when they come in, we have to create an environment to allow for international participation, fair international participation. And where they have to abide by our laws is an environment called the FPB, which is a content monitoring environment where FPB thing of 16 language, sexual violence, they have to go through that process. So there is a space where we are protecting the South Africans, and that's kind of where it kind of starts and stops. But others, let's come back to South African SABC. Effectively, when there's a performance protection amendment bills as well, it deals with you. But again, that sits in Department of Trade and Industry. It doesn't sit with Department of Sport, Art and Culture, where creativity exists, right? That's the home of creativity, but it sits in an economic and trade environment that seems a bit odd for us. But it's because certain laws sit within that department. So when you sit within that department, so when you're talking about how do we create an environment, NFEF tried to, and I think what Cicely was alluding to was the definition of NFEF as a thing. Back in 1997, it made absolute sense for them to be called the National Film and Video Foundation because of the technical environment that existed then. We are in 2000 and beyond 2000 and 1997, right? We're in 2024, and we're sitting in an environment whereby I can watch, like right now, if I wanted to, if I was bored, I would sit here and I would watch something, right? And I'm not. But I'm saying that we're in an environment where content is created in very different ways. And so that term, film by itself, if you look at the dictionary, it doesn't exist where we are. We don't shoot with 35 mils anymore. But other things like the 5 key objectives. The 5 key objectives kind of exist, but the framework under which they work is also disabled for them because they're not able to achieve much with their legislative environment. However, other places have advanced on such that they're able to now do more with the money and the resources that they have, but they're not in the creative sectors.
Yeah.
So what it comes down to ultimately is that legislative.
Yeah. The NFEF Act has to be overhauled.
Yeah, and what she means by that is that it needs to have a relook to work within the potential future, because we don't know what it looks like. But use now, or as the example of what could happen. Like the idea of streaming doesn't exist anywhere in our legal system. Nowhere does streaming exist. YouTube is by itself in its own stratosphere. Globally, it's not a South African problem, it's a global problem because we were not prepared as the world for the advancement of computers.
On that note, let's turn for some questions, and then we'll jump in with a few things. Let's see some hands up if you have comments or questions. Aha! Azania, interestingly, the American Congress brought TikTok in to answer questions, and they took them to task. So you might think TikTok is an American company. No, it's an Asian company that's done so well in America. And now America is being a bit jealous that they're influencing the young, etc. So not all governments are a bit asleep, Anyway, yes, Tanika.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
People. My question is to Dudu, right? For Writers Guild, I know it says Writers Guild. I was actually really happy to hear that you're also a script editor. I have asked the people in the Writers Guild, I just joined recently by the way, what are you doing for script editors, story consultants, development people? What are you guys planning to do for us? Thanks.
We are working on figuring that out. I think to be honest, because of the history of the Writers Guild, we come from the South African Script Writers Association. So our focus has really hyper focused on script writers and not really storyliners, script editors, consultants. So we actually do need to work on that, clarifying it. Because I was really just thinking a few days ago, we were looking at the news, and I was like, no man, we know you're a storyliner. I still also want to be, awarded for storylining. It's even just as simple as an award. But it's a thing that we have to figure out, and what I can say is it's in progress. Yeah.
Very good. Any more questions, comments? Here's one more. Here's another one here. So back to the African Union's audiovisual something. If you can remind us of that name and what work are they busy with at the moment?
Okay, so the African Audio Visual Commission on Cinema, AACC, has recently launched a secretariat. What they're trying to work out is what is the best course of action to, first of all, support the African film industry, what they call African cinema industry, slightly different terminology. And I think it's because of this legislation around the continents, it's easier to talk about cinema than it is to talk about film. And then the other thing they're trying to work out is, where are the resources coming from and how they galvanize what are resources, what exists, what are the laws that govern film support in order for them to be able to support its ministers. But understand this is a government to government, so it comes from the AU to the assigned countries through their ministers, so it has to go to the Department of Sport, Art and Culture, and then from there it's disseminated down to the Film Commission. So it's not a direct line to filmmakers. You cannot access them. You have to go through the steps. But what they're trying to do is that because content now is the buzzword globally, no more construction or manufacturing or anything like that, they are now here to try and make sure that the industry at large for Africa actually is an industry that is seen as a contributor to the GDP. Even though it is, but when it is and seen are two different things. That's what they're trying to do.
Hi, good day. Thank you so much for bringing us really these people over there. I really love what you're talking about, and one of the things that really interests me, because I do training on that as well at high technology, is artificial intelligence. So it's one thing to speak to individual, be they producers or filmmakers or whatever, what their perception is around artificial intelligence. I would really love to hear, from your perspectives, how you see it. Whether it's something to assist you, something to look forward to. I'm also looking forward to hearing actually what he has to say as well. Thank you.
If I jump in, I was also part of the South African Guild of Actors. I've been on so many boards. I think kind of 2 or 3 things. At the moment, as a company, we run the Youth Filmmaker Project, which is a slate of films that we produce for NFVF. Well, NFVF is the key stakeholder. And every year we do a call-out nationally for young writer directors to pitch. So what I found interesting about AI is, unlike any other year, the pitch is coming in hot and fast with AI. That people are developing AI detectors in terms of writing, and so someone made it through a couple of rounds with their pitch, and when they stand in front of us, there was a bit of a disconnect with what we read and what they're telling us. And then when they walked out, one of our script mentors said, AI. So they were good AI prompters, but they aren't the storyteller at heart. And I think, when you talk about copyright, and there's an editor we're working with on a feature film at the moment, and he says, so I said to him, well, do you have to put this voice over at the moment, and we're testing out a VO. And he says he's going to use an AI program to record using someone's voice. It could be yours, it could be mine. And then, so I could take a Morgan Freeman movie and then teach my AI, write my own scripts, and then have Morgan, through AI, record a voiceover for the film. Yeah, I think, if we don't get on top of it, it'll get on top of us, and then the people's right. So on one level, it has advanced a lot of things. There's a director I worked with many years ago on Charter, Tim Green. But now Tim has used AI almost as a storyboarding kind of model, but he creates this thing that you can do these previews of, if I say, okay, preview for me my epic on these beautiful hills where these armies are fighting, and he can go and create that using AI. So I think, there's a lot of tools out there. Anyone else to comment?
not an internet lifetime, right? You view these things in a different way. You first panic, and then you're like, okay, wait, let me calm down and find out what it's about. So how I personally use AI is hasn't learned those things yet, but it's learning them the more we use them. So maybe in 2 years it won't be an issue for me to have to go in and change the names and spellings of certain things because of accent and language. But right now, where it is, personally, I wish it wouldn't grow because I want to do things like into the coming is all of those departments actually need to get ready. But you know where we are. Someone quiet, I actually know what it is. This is the country we're in. So there's our organizations that do that because the threat for writers is a threat for writers, it's a threat for actors because they can take your voice and it can be used without compensation. And those are the kind of problems that if it plagiarizes people's work and people then cannot earn from it. Those I think are for me personally are the main problems. But everything else, grammar, taking notes, transcribing, those are things that took longer for me to do. I have to dedicate a day to transcribing what we just talked about. But with the Otter.ai, it doesn't.
There was one more hand here.
Greetings, everybody. My question is for Uma Lindiwe. I wanted to know if one is costed for a certain production and then they sign an agreement and in the agreement there are no SWIFT clauses in it and then is faced with the tragedy of being essayed or sexually assaulted. Does then SWIFT come in as a mediator for the victim to the production, just kind of help, even though in the agreement they've signed there are no any SWIFT clauses? Thank you.
Very good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sandra, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you. I'm not sure if we're mute on your side. Okay.
Okay, I'll put the answer on the chat.
Okay, you're not able to hear us. It is a very good question. Do you know how it's intervention?
Okay, essentially what Swift tries to do, regardless of whether it's in there, they will do their best to respond. Swift is not an organization that say, I got shared outside shop, you're on your own. No, what they will aim to do is to try and understand the situation, but because there's not been an agreement between the producer and Swift, and yourself and Swift, they are limited to how they can enter a conversation. So you have to find a way to contact Swift, but at the same time you have to tell the producer that this is your course of action. Because if you don't tell the producer and then all of a sudden this other organization comes in, then it causes problems within the process. So you have to be able to then pause, correct, speak to Swift, speak to the producer, speak to the perpetrator, and what some films have on site is a safety officer anyway, which is a non-sexual safety officer, but speak to that kind of collective of personnel and try to get to a resolve. But I think as anyone, producer, actor, cinematographer, guys, it's not just about acting and producing. If you're a cinematographer, you're an editor, you're a caterer, like anything on set, you're sweeping the floors, it doesn't matter what you're doing. But there can be certain harassment across the value chain. It's not just about actors, right? So you have to then, in that moment, ask about the Swift codes of conduct. Also on top of that, you spoke about other safety. Other safety elements, there are something, during COVID we had the health safety. There are so many different safety elements. There are organizations out there that speak about set safety. It's up to you to ask the question, what's safety, where am I protected, how am I protected, and where can I go for advice? They don't have to be affiliated with, but by posing the question, you make people think about what their actions are. Okay?
Yes.
I think even in contract stage, the thing that we sometimes play ourselves on is by not asking for things to be put in contracts. You can only ask. A lot of things that I've been able to get into so-called standard contracts have been because I asked. I said, no, but why do you guys need to? I've got a little pet peeve about my picture just being used. I'm a writer, I'm in the bedroom. I don't want you to have perpetual rights to my likeness. Why do you find this in my contract? Right, like remove it. It feels like a small petty thing, but for me it's a small win because next time I'm asking for something else and I'm getting closer to the things that I that really matter. But really also join the organization. I encourage people who are actors to join SAGA. SAGA is doing a lot of important work. Personally, as a writer, I want to join SAGA, but I can't. I probably can be like a friend of SAGA or something. But like they do a lot of work. If you're an actor, join them. If you're there is a sense in cinematographer. Not sage. No, that's editors. No, this is yes.
There's an organization called SASFE, which is our federation, who are the ones that should actually go to government and have this collective bargaining situation. So I know that there are 13 organizations. And I talk about legislative cohesion, but we need cohesion amongst ourselves. But the IDFC is representing everything black in the organization across the value chain. Because you talk about your issues as writers, but then you've got the other layer of women, which is where Swift comes in. And you've got the other layer of being black, which is also a challenge in this country. I have to prove that I'm black. I don't know, but I don't know any other race has to prove that they're race, right? So then you've got a situation where IPO, they can't get into the issues of Sage, Editors Guild, or the Writers, or the Colorists Guild, okay? Colorists Guild now deal with literally the color of the film, the color of the skin on film, right? So it's having to just be aware that once you're a member of these smaller organizations, you actually, by virtue, have ascended to a much bigger collective. And I think that collective environment allows for us to have a much louder voice. And these things come off our principles of government have asked us in 2005. You know, you may not like him, but you know, the president back then, I think it was Zuma at the time, said, guys, pull yourselves together, right? They had a big meeting, so then from there, then you have all these organizations again and again and again. Then you have the second one with our current president says, guys, organize yourselves. You go to DTI, don't think you're going to go there by yourself. They will say, go to an organization. You know, you've got the minister now, arts and culture, who 4 weeks ago said, guys, I can't do independence. I have to do with organizations. So you can, thankfully, because of our voices as organizations, please, as an independent, don't think you can go to a president and say, I've got an issue. Yes, you can as a citizen, but then you have a bigger muscle if you come to any of us and say, I've got an issue, please help me. Go through it. And then they'll start to see that maybe there's 10 more people who have the same issue. So it's not about being an individual in some instances, it's about being an individual within an environment of a collective. And I think that's why we're here. We talk about individual issues, right? We speak about acting, we speak about copywriters. But at the end of the day, we are all here to represent your needs in different areas where you are. And sometimes you feel as if you're left out. Maybe you are a gaffer, right? There is an organization for you, right? It's a techie organization run by Freddie, right? He's there for all people in tech. So it's just having to find and say, okay, these things exist. So there are lots and lots and lots of organizations. There's even organizations for photographers, guys. See that thing on the camera? There's an organization specifically for you. But we need to ask the questions in order for you to be able to assimilate to some organization.
Any other hand, questions, comments, thoughts? Here's one. So we have sisters in film. I'm botching it up, but it's Swift. Sisters working in film and film and television and streaming and everything else. The Writers Guild of South Africa, Independent Producers Organization, the Actors Guild, Independent Black Filmmakers Collective. There we go. Hello.
I just wanted to ask, now that there are so many film organizations in South Africa, do you guys potentially see a future where all these organizations come together under one umbrella and create a regulatory sort of board? Or is there a regulatory board that all these organizations come together and everybody's it's collaboration amongst the organizations, so that it's not as if, because most of these organizations are member-based, and working in the film industry and having fluctuating income, it's quite expensive to pay for SWIFT, then pay for IBC membership, then pay for that. Is there a point where all these organizations are going to come and become one, so that when you get into it, you can just go to one place, and should you want to diversify yourself, there's accessibility to that?
Yes. Yeah. Mr. B and K, if there's one line that's going to be recorded and sent to the mayor, it's no. So the South African Screen Federation, SASFED, is there, has existed, and is the collection of all of these bodies, right? And I think the board of SASFED has about 7 board members that try to represent. So it exists. That's the first thing. But we've been needing arbitration, a bargaining council, mediators. And so, you know, when I was in IPO, some of the EXCO members were fighting the idea of being funded by government, because then they said you can't fight government if they're funding. So I already hear what you're saying, but to answer your question, sometimes the gaffer has an issue with the producer. Now, the producer is represented by IPO, the gaffer is represented by the techie organization. But so now, who mediates between these two when there's an issue, right? Or the actor or the writer. Now, if SASFED had that element to it, you know, for mediation, arbitration, and I think kind of what you alluded to about the guild in America, etc., where there was enough muscle to put pressure on government. Like, remember in the end, as I know, talking about that cohesion between Minister of Communications should be regulating who has a license, to stream and under which conditions those people are operating. Trade, regulates business transaction. Arts promotes art, but not so much the regulatory, because even, the Copyright Amendment Bill is more at TTI than it is, at arts. So to answer your question, I think that vision is there, and I would charge SASPED and us to say it's time that we put pressure, because I like the way you were talking about how to organize and sectorial determination for labor or even trade, so to understand these independent contractors, this is how you treat them. So it is organized under SASPED, but I think that the things that you're talking about inside can still be done now to make sure people can do that.
So the other question that you asked was if there's work being done, like in terms of bargaining councils and things like that. There's work that's being done. It's a very, very long road. I've just hopped onto this road this year because I became a council member of the WGSA. But all of this has been happening. So just to put into context, to change a law takes many, many, many years, right? From it being written, from all the inputs that has to happen, from a bill, from it being written in the correct language, to it going to Parliament and all the way. So that is the long road to take. The short road to take is the sectorial determination, and it comes from all of the work that has been done from the preceding ministers and so on, and the directives that have come from the departments to say, okay, this is a pathway to getting this thing done quicker. I think there are, as much as there are challenges to being a freelancer, there's also benefits to being a freelancer. So being a freelancer, your membership is something that you can get tax, the deduction. The English was running away. It's a tax deductible, So when you do your taxes, first of all, as a freelancer, you're a business. You need to get a tax number. You need to be paying your tax. They'll come after you one day, not pay. You need to get that right. If you can't afford an accountant, you need to learn as much about accounting as possible so you can do your own proper maths and balancing of things. End of the financial year, the memberships is part of your expenses, so it's deductible up to a certain point. I know it's also a worry that students have, but in your first year, once you start to work and get that tax number, you can get that 200 rand back. But think of it this way: this is you investing in your own self. This is you investing in the environment that you work in making sure that it can actually grow and work. As member-based organizations, it's difficult to do the work that we do. And I say it's difficult because you need a certain level of skill and a certain level of knowledge to be engaging and lobbying with government. It's not easy, it's not for the faint-hearted. I know that I'm glad I don't have to go deal with certain things that my other council members have to deal with, because I would run away, really, I'd be like, no, I've got a script, I can't go and face minister meeting right now. But you need those people to be able to do that. And for people to make time, we are volunteers in our organization and most of the organizations, but it takes time and money to be able to lobby and go to these meetings that they do, and that's what membership helps us with, And one day, when you are having a really big problem that needs to get to courts and things, that's where your membership goes. It's being able to get the lawyers to fight for you.
It is so true. I'm a case in point. 2-3 years ago, a big show I did with Mnet, with British producers, that they wouldn't let me go film something else because they had a clause that they could hold on to me for 2 weeks after the end of production in case they needed to do any pickups. But anyway, long story short, my agent, so number one, you all need an agent. We all need agents. I don't know if there's a lot of writing agents. I do know of one. There's a few, but the agents are very important. That the techies are represented by agents. Directors now, there's a guild of directors that I've learned about. But anyway, long story short, they belong to the Personal Managers Association. So there's an association of agents. So even recently, as a producer, one of the agents was kicking back our clauses in the contract, and then she copied someone from the PMA. And the irony is, my agent is part of the PMA. And then I said, no, we're not trying to exploit the actors. Long story short, what I'm trying to say is, belonging to an agent is very important. But back to the people that fought for you, then I could ask the South African Guild of Actors to intervene on something. And because the guild has lawyers, then the lawyers were brought onto my case. I didn't pay for legal counsel as an individual. And that's what part of being a member of hint, IBFC, you need lawyers on the team. Oh, what's that?
There's an organization called PABASA, which is the Pan-African Bar Association of Advocates. Pan-African.
So are they helping you pro bono on your legal things? Okay, interesting. Any more questions as we wrap up, sir? Yes. Yes, there's the last one. There's a mic behind you there.
Just one quick one. It's a question that's been on the back of my mind, especially when it comes to sisters working in film and television. Do we have brothers working in film and television?
Not that I know of.
So which is very important, I may assume, because as living as a gay man, I assume that you do get uncomfortable in most places. It can be the most littlest things, and the littlest jokes can literally set you off. So there is no organization that could potentially protect me, should I say I become an actor or a producer?
You can start one.
Alright, thank you.
There we go. Maybe I want to hand over to you. I think as we wrap up, there's so much. And just to sum up on Spizani, Minister, thank you for not cutting the NFVF funding. And NFVF, thank you for supporting the film festival continually. Yes, from the Writers Guild, we thank you so much, but also to you as a practitioner, thank you for all those shows and even Happiness. I haven't watched it, but I hope to be working on your material soon. Mom Lindy, thank you. I don't know if you can still hear us. If not, Yvonne, please tell her we say thank you so much. She can hear us. Thank you. She's waiting. Thank you. Actually, she wrote an answer that when you asked, if you do, Swift can intervene on your behalf. And they'll send a safety officer and they will do that arbitration with the producer, etc. Yeah. And locations, Africa, Independent Black Filmmakers Collective, Konke, African Union, Audiovisual, we thank you. Mr. B.
Thank you very much. I have you closed it? Because I'm addressing. Okay,
yes, thanks.
All right. A round of applause. I have to stand before you and thank you personally. This is from the bottom of my heart. Because these wonderful people, they came all the way at their own costs. By the way, this is passion. We don't get that a lot in Northwest. As a small festival, you ask to get people to come and talk in panels. I think there is something that happens when people put you on a weighing scale, and then it doesn't really, it just goes, and then it goes back, and then they're like, yeah, she has my dates or my name. So I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Just a few additions that I picked up during this presentation, which I really think you guys should take away like keynotes, is that it's important to belong to an organization. The reason why as RFF we brought these organizations is so that you get to know what this particular organization does and identify one that you believe you need to belong to. That's very important. So we hope that when we present these sessions to you, it's not just another talk show. Talk show. Something will come out of it. We hope that you're going to go into the website and subscribe and become members, so that in case you have a problem, you have a bigger job of developing your own. Right. Okay. So that's one of the takeouts. And just as a side note to appetize you to keep and stay attentive, you do recall, as RFF again, we give what we call, in quotation marks, practical freebies. So this year, one of our partners, Canon, is providing 2 cameras, each worth 20,000. And, like I say, it's not a talk show. The cameras have been delivered because they came, so the cameras are here. They say upon presentation, we need to take a photo, and then you, as the person receiving that award, need to post. That's the only way they would know that we didn't use the cameras ourselves for the live streams. So number one, to kickstart your career as a producer, as whatever, that camera gives you 4K resolution, so you can shoot anything. You can shoot a documentary, you can shoot anything. One of those cameras is a very simple campaign called, what is the campaign called? I'll Be There. I think it's something like that. Where you need to post, you know the signature pose for RFF this year by now. You see it everywhere now because that's our signature pose. You need to make sure you've got that signature pose. There are rules on posting. We have received now 7 legitimate entries. So we are going to have a winner. Is you or not? Another practical freebie this year we've got Final Draft. This is to mention something about Final Draft. It's a very expensive software. Well, let me say very, because very depends again. Yes, but it's a professional script writing software. They have provided us with, wait for it, 60 licenses. 60. Okay? 10 of them full lifetime membership. You know, Final Draft is one of those softwares which when you get it, you don't have to pay next year until they have an update. Whereas with Adobe CC, every year you must pay or get booted out. So that's another practical one. For the Final Draft one, you really need to do little. You just need to attend our master classes, remain attentive, remain in attendance, because when we pick up the winners, we are going to check the attendance register. You see those dates, make sure when you come, you sign under Tuesday, you sign under Wednesday, you sign under. So if we pick a winner and they attended 1, 2, and then there's another running one who attended 1, 2, 3, you're out. Goes to the 3 because they're more serious. Sorry. Okay, so I thought maybe add that. Yes, I'm sure it's allowed one way or the other. And then there was a huge conversation on AI. We've got a session coming out called Harnessing the Power of AI. So please stick around for that. But for now, we would like to set up for our next session Canon.